Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video. My name is Angel DeSantis. I make these videos on religious trauma, and with this video I wanted to talk about the ability to ask questions. And if you are at this video, you are already asking questions. The algorithm is already working. You are either asking questions from somebody else, you're curious about a topic, or you're asking questions for yourself. And somehow you are here. So hello, it's nice to meet you if I've never met you before. So I grew up in a cult called the Children of God, and this is not something that just pertains to cult. This is a religious thing where they create an environment where it makes it impossible for you to, one, be curious, and two, to feel safe enough to ask questions. And in the healing process and in the process of healing who you are and feeling comfortable with yourself and curious about your human nature, it is really important to understand that that is something that was stemmed in you, and that is something that now you can cultivate. And I think especially if you have access to the internet, um, you have the ability to a world of information and of knowledge that may have been specifically deprived of you previously through the religion. And I want to talk about the need to be safe internally and externally before you feel like you can ask a question. And I grew up in a cult called the Children of God. If you are here, you probably have some sort of experience with religion, and you may have had the same experience of the inability to ask questions because asking questions would make you physically unsafe. So for me, I couldn't ask any questions about evolution because I would be beaten. They were showing me drawings of sex, and I was like 8 years old. This was a sex cult, so it was a whole other thing. But they were showing me pictures of sex, and there was one where like the woman is sitting on the man's lap. So I asked like where the appendage was and if it was in the rear, and I got beaten for that. And then I got a whole talk about like how disgusting I was to have homosexual thoughts. And at this, like, I'm 8 years old. I didn't know any of this. But for them, asking questions that they felt uncomfortable answering because they were ignorant as to how to answer, for them, it exposed them. And so they took out the anger on me because I was the thing that exposed it. And I think that if you grew up in religion, you might have a similar experience where you asked a question. The person was so full of rage that they were unable to answer and not confident in themselves that you received the attack that they felt internally. They had it show up externally and it was used against you. And what that taught me, and what it may have taught you, is that you shouldn't ask questions because questions make you unsafe. And then what that does is it stems your curiosity, and then you learn to be a shell of a human being and to not be curious about yourself, to not be curious about the world. And what it did for me was make me feel really, really incapable. I felt completely incapable to do anything because I didn't know what I was capable of and I wasn't willing to ask questions. So when I first left, if I went into a job interview, I would let them ask me questions. I wouldn't ask them any questions, which I now realize like you should be curious about the company that you're trying to work for or the person that you're trying to work for. There's a natural dialogue there, and in order for there to be human connection, there needs to be curiosity on both sides. Questions are answered and a bond is formed. But if you grew up with a religious background where questions meant you were physically in danger, that part of you might not have been cultivated. And the thing that really helped me, which I'm going to share with you, and I hope that it helps you, is one day I was telling this to a friend of mine where I was like, I don't like asking questions. I know that people think I'm stupid. People will find out that I'm really dumb and people won't want to associate with me. And this person was like, do you like helping people? And I was like, yeah, I love helping people. And they were like, okay, so when you ask somebody a question and they can answer you, they feel good that they were able to help you. And I was like, really? I had never heard that concept because for me, every time I asked a question, I would get in trouble because it was exposing other people's ignorance. It was very rare for me. I don't think at that point in my life I had run across somebody yet who I would ask a question, they would answer me, and they would feel good that they helped me, and I would feel good that I was helped. And until this interaction, in my brain, I thought that me asking questions translated to me being a burden and me being stupid. And once this person, I had this interaction with this person where he was able to communicate to me that, like, no, when I'm able to help someone, I feel really good about it. And he was like, please continue to ask me questions. And if I can answer you, I will. And if I don't know, then we can research it. And that was the first time that I had any sort of compassionate response to me asking a question. And then after I realized that people actually enjoy helping and people want to help, then I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask questions all of the time. And then I entered this phase of just being incredibly curious, asking questions from like everyone that I ran across, because everyone has information that I don't. And it has made me a lot more curious about the world. It's made me understand human beings so much better. It's given me the ability to connect with people and the ability to have dialogue, because I'm not afraid any longer to say, can you explain that? I don't understand what that is. Or to say, what's that word? I don't know that word. Because I realize that if people actually want to help, they will. And people feel good when they are able to help. And the people who freak out and get upset at you and treat you like you're stupid, or who physically lash out against you when you ask questions, those are the people to stay away from. Those are the people who are worried that their own ignorance will be exposed, and so they have to shut you down. So I just want to come on here and tell that story, because I think it's a really important thing to understand that if you grew up in a religious environment, in something that was religiously abusive, they will have stemmed your ability to feel safe when you ask questions. And it's important for you to acknowledge that, and then to understand that not everyone is like that. The people who actually care for other human beings will want to help you with the information that they have. So if that's been you and you've been afraid to ask questions, um, ask where that came from, and kind of look at the foundation of your fear. And once you find the foundation, then you can ask if you're in that situation. And for me, I realized, you know what, I'm not in the situation any longer where I have to be afraid of asking questions. So now I can become this other person, and I can feed this huge well in me that really wanted more knowledge. So I hope that that story is helpful. And I definitely want to help. If you have questions that I can answer, I will. Um, and if not, like, again, if you have the internet, there's a lot of knowledge out there. Stick with stick with sources that are good, but there is a lot of information available to you, and I encourage you to continue asking questions and kind of fanning the flame of your curiosity, because it will lead you to becoming more full and more peaceful of a person, because knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you can feel. So I encourage you to ask questions as much as possible. And yeah, that is the purpose of this video. So if you have questions for me, leave them below. Otherwise, thank you guys for being here. Happy New Year, and I'll see you next week.